from Esther Githui-Ewart. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. Chadians vote to elect a new head of state 3 years after their military leader seized power. Nigeria is considering the introduction of state police across the country's 36 states as part of measures to tackle militant attacks, but citizens are cautious about the move. And presumed Republican U.S. presidential nominee Donald Trump says if elected, he will restore a travel ban on some majority Muslim countries. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. Chadians voted on Monday 3 years after their military leader seized power in the first presidential election in Africa's Sahel region since a wave of coups. VOA Pondiho has more.
Chadians began voting for a president in an election purportedly aimed at ending military rule, but dismissed by opponents of the junta leader Mahamat Idriss Deby as a fix following violent repression. Polls were due to close at 5 p.m. local time, with some 8.5 million people registered to vote. Voters are choosing whether to extend decades of Deby's family rule in one of the world's poorest countries and a crucial territory in the fight against jihadism across the Sahel region. Chad's presidential candidate and Prime Minister Success Masra cast his ballot with a call to citizens.
I would like to invite every Chadian to get out and vote. All those who have shown that they want massive change to go out in masses and vote in a peaceful manner.
Analysts say Mahamat Idriss Deby, who seized power the day rebels killed his long-time luring father, Idriss Deby, in April 2021, is likely to win. However, his chief opponent attracted larger than expected crowds on the campaign trail. Deby is promising to bolster security, strengthen the rule of law, and increase electricity production. The vote coincides with a temporary withdrawal of U.S. troops from Chad, a critical Western ally in a region of West and Central Africa courted by Russia. Provisional results are expected by May 21st and final results by June 5th. If no candidate wins more than 50% of the votes, a runoff will be held on June 22nd. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
For more on Chad's elections where the polls are closing, I'm joined by Timo Donagmaye, VOA French to Africa chief and a native of Chad. Tim, welcome again to Africa 54.
Thank you.
Now, what does this vote mean for the people of Chad?
Well, it means a lot. It means the end of transition. There was an 18-month transition which was extended. That was from April 2021 when the late President Idriss Deby was killed in a rebel attack in the Western Chad. So it means a lot. People expect a lot of things to happen after the end of the transition.
And how optimistic are Chadians if Mahamat Idriss Deby gets elected to become the president of Chad?
Some are optimistic, but some point out that he has not been able to distance himself from the 30 years of his father at the helm of the country. And those 30 years were marked by violence and mismanagement, so many problems right now in Chad. So people are not sure how things would go if he succeeds.
Now, he appears to be in the lead, but what chances do Prime Minister Success Masra and former Prime Minister Albert Mahimi Padake have to win this election?
They have a chance, but people point out that the head of the Electoral Commission, for example, is a former associate of the late President Idriss Deby, no? And the head of the Constitutional Court is a former family lawyer for the Deby family, and he's also a former vice chairman of the ruling party. So it's a concern for many people. But at the same time, the opposition groups believe that they have strong teams on the ground and that they will keep everything under control until they get the true results from the polls.
I find it very interesting that, Idriss Deby is running, but his prime minister and former prime minister are also running against him. Mm-hmm. But what are the issues on the table? What are they promising to do if they win this election? Idriss Deby himself and the other two top candidates.
The issue in Chad that everything has to be done. Chad has been producing oil since 2003, but right now, many cities, including N'Djamena, have electricity problems. They have blackouts. In some cases, they don't have electricity at all. Many areas lack drinking water. In the northern part, which is part of the Sahara Desert, many localities do not have running water. And roads are terrible, roads leading from N'Djamena to the south, N'Djamena to the north. Very bad roads. So everything remains to be done in Chad. And people are really disappointed that despite the oil money that has been flowing since 2003, the country is still in that shape, that bad shape.
Tim, the junta leaders kicked out France and now they have embraced Russia. What do they expect from Russia?
Well, if Russia comes in, then they would be happy, Russia would bring arms. And also, they wouldn't have to be concerned about issues of human rights or issues of good governance. And so they are really looking in that direction. And President Mahamat Idriss Deby traveled to Russia, where he met President Vladimir Putin. So right now, we don't know what kind of a deal they are working on. But if they come in, then I think that the leaders will be happy.
Right. If we win, we're going to see a little bit of what's going to be the relationship between Chad and Russia. Tim, thank you very much for your
My pleasure.
Thank you. Timothy Donagmaya is VOA French to Africa Chief. Nigeria is considering the introduction of state police across the country's 36 states as part of measures to tackle militant attacks, mass kidnappings and banditry activities that rocked the country. The state police are an addition to the more than 300,000-member national police force who have been overwhelmed by the violence. Nigerians cautiously welcome the move, as Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
On the evening of October the 14th last year, Nigerian student Latifa Ibrahim, whose name we have changed to protect her identity, was on her way back to her off-campus lodge when 5 armed men abducted her along with 2 of her classmates in northern Nigeria's Gandu community. She says she could hear the struggles and screams of her friends as they were apparently raped by the kidnappers.
They actually did it in front of us, though our faces were covered. We were beaten there and were not treated nicely.
She says she was lucky to be spared by the rapists. The incident was reported to the police and school authorities. The trio were released 4 days later after their families separately paid ransoms. Ibrahim's family paid 5 million naira, or about $3,400, to the abductors for her release.
My families were stressed and worried, like it wasn't easy, especially my mom. She was so stressed.
Kidnapping for ransom is one of the major insecurities bedeviling Africa's most populous country amid the worsening economic crisis. Nigeria's inflation in February surpassed 31%, its highest level in 3 decades. Analysts say hostage taken by bandits is money-driven and that victims are mostly released once a ransom is paid. The Nigerian risk consulting firm SBM Intelligence said it has recorded 4,700 cases of abductions, mainly by militants and armed bandits, since President Bola Timo took office last May. Thousands more have been displaced from their homes by the violence. Nigerian security forces are also struggling to control a 14-year-long insurgency by the Boko Haram and the Islamic State West Africa province extremist groups, deadly communal clashes as well as separatist violence. To address the problem, Nigerian authorities agreed in February to set up state police units to bolster the national police force. Each Nigerian state would be empowered by law to coordinate and manage the force if the law is passed. The new legislation has yet to be approved by the Senate. Ordinary Nigerians say it is a good decision if properly managed.
The people who constitute the police force are members, they are the local people of that area. They understand the nook and crannies of these places, and they will be able to tackle insecurity issues better than foreigners, strangers who are posted to the state as policemen.
They will pick people from that area. Anything that comes around that place, we know ourselves, it will reduce a lot of things. But the good thing, the worst thing will be that the politicians will hijack it, for intimidation.
The Nigerian police force has the worst rating among 11 public institutions surveyed last year by the Afrobarometer, a Pan-African research network. Allegations of brutality, extortion, and torture are frequently leveled against officers, a charge often contested by the police. However, police authorities often promise to investigate allegations and hold errant officers accountable. Security analyst Kabiru Adamu says the focus should be on accountability.
What we need more than anything is accountability. If we don't have accountability in governance, then we can't even go ahead to start creating policing.
Police in Nigeria are under scrutiny in light of the October 2020 nationwide protests against police brutality and calls for reforms. Analysts also say funding might be another challenge facing efforts to establish state police. However, the Nigerian parliament says it is reviewing opinions from civil society groups and citizens before passing a law that establishes state police. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Tuesday, in our corruption series, we're staying in Nigeria, where the nation is cracking down on electoral fraud, marking a turning point for African democracy. After the turbulent 2023 general elections, the country is initiating prosecutions against offenders, aiming to restore credibility. So be sure to tune in. Seven African leaders are participating in a three-day U.S.-Africa Business Summit beginning Monday in Dallas, Texas. Florizel Liza, President and CEO of the Corporate Council on Africa, tells VOA the summit provides a major platform for deepening U.S.-Africa business ties across multiple key sectors, including agribusiness, energy, health, infrastructure, trade facilitation, and finance. She spoke with VOA's Peter Clotty about the summit.
The U.S.-Africa Business Summit, which CCA puts on every year, each one is unique in a different way. It is, I think, amongst all the business associations, we're the only one that's solely focused on Africa. And each summit brings together leaders from both the government and the private sector in both U.S. and Africa. So every year we have a somewhat different mix of people who come, though consistently we're getting kind of the highest levels of representation from the African side. We'll have African heads of state. We'll have ministers from across the continent who are responsible for trade or health or ICT. And we'll get top people and officials from the administration who are at, the U.S. Export-Import Bank, Millennium Challenge Corporation, State Department, Commerce Department, Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, the U.S. Development Finance Corporation, U.S. TDA.
What do you think will be the major takeaways for them? during the summit?
It's the engagement, because where is there an opportunity for African heads of state and top officials from the U.S. to meet with CEOs of both U.S. and African companies, C-suite executives who are doing business in Africa or who would like to do business in Africa? When would you have the opportunity to talk to people about major issues like energy transition and critical minerals and agribusiness and ICT and digital developments on the continent? And so, one could say one of the main takeaways is the dialogue, just the fact that you'll have a session that will have, we have high-level dialogues in different areas. So my expectations are high, of course. So first of all, I am looking forward to welcoming to Dallas, along with the Dallas Summit Committee, Welcome Committee, these heads of state that are coming. And so, all across the USG. And I think the thing that I'm most excited about is being able to say at the end of the 3 days that we had some of the best discussions and dialogues and created the best platform possible for those who really have an interest and a stake in Africa.
That was Florizel Liza, President and CEO of the Corporate Council on Africa, speaking to VOA's Peter Claudy. Israel's military says people in eastern Rafah should go to what the military called an expanded humanitarian area that now includes Khan Yunis, in a move that comes ahead of a planned Israeli offensive in Rafah. Maps provided by the Israeli military previously showed a humanitarian zone along the Gaza coast west of Khan Yunis. Monday's announcement expanded that area both to the north along the coast as well as east to include Khan Yunis. Israel is preparing what a military spokesman calls a limited scope operation in Rafah. The spokesperson says an estimated 100 people are being asked to leave the evacuation area. Negotiators are trying to find a breakthrough in ceasefire talks aimed at bringing a temporary halt in fighting and the release of hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza. We'd like to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, highlights of the weekend action in the Basketball African League. We'll be right back.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
You're watching Africa 54 from the Voice of America headquarters here in Washington, D.C. In other news, Tanzania's meteorological authority says tropical cyclone Hidaya that made landfall over the weekend has lost its strength and is no longer a threat to the country. The storm triggered heavy rains and winds as it rolled towards Tanzania and neighboring Kenya, countries already battered by torrential downpours and floods. Niger state television says that new Russian military advisors and military equipment have arrived in the country. 2 military transporters arrived Saturday, according to the tele Sahel, that also says Russia has now sent 3 cargo planes of military material and instructors in the past month. And Togo's ruling Union for the Republican Party has won 108 out of 113 seats in parliament, according to the final provisional results of last month's legislative election. The sweeping majority secured by President Faure Gnassingbé's party follows the approval of controversial constitutional reforms by the outgoing parliament that could extend Gnassingbé's 19-year rule. Presumed Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump says if elected, he will restore a travel ban on some majority Muslim countries on the first day of his new administration. The travel ban was rescinded by President Joe Biden. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns has the details.
When Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, he pledged to change U.S. immigration to keep out terrorists from Islamic countries.
And we will keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country, 100%. We have no choice. We have no choice.
Once in office, Trump banned travel to the U.S. from 7 majority Muslim countries, sparking protests and legal challenges, including from the American Civil Liberties Union.
If there are real threats, then those threats should be investigated on an individual basis. But we shouldn't assume that any group or religion is more dangerous than another group.
The travel ban was argued all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where a conservative majority upheld it, in a move celebrated by Trump online and at the White House.
We have to be tough, and we have to be safe, and we have to be secure.
Joe Biden campaigned against the Trump travel ban in 2020.
You know, you don't have to accept the president who promulgates hatred and exclusion toward Muslims and trumped up bans on travel bans on Muslims.
So help me God.
And ended that ban when he became president. Now, 4 years later, Trump told supporters in Wisconsin this week that events in the Middle East convince him that it's time for another travel ban.
We do not need a jihad in the United States of America. We do not need our once great cities to become hotbeds of terrorism. And on day 1 of the Trump presidency, I'm restoring the travel ban, suspending refugee admissions, and keeping terrorists the hell out of our country, like I had it before.
In this campaign, Biden has championed immigrant contributions to the United States, telling a group of campaign donors this week that other countries have suffered because they're xenophobic. Immigrants are what makes us strong, Biden said, because, quote, we have an influx of workers who want to be here and want to contribute. An April Harvard Caps Harris poll shows immigration tied with inflation as the top issues for U.S. voters. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
Now to sports. The Sahara Conference of Season 4 of the Basketball African League tipped off in Dakar, Senegal over the weekend. 4 teams from the continent are playing 12 games in the third leg of the tournament. In the opening game, Rwanda's Armée Patriotique Rwandais defeated Tunisia's Union Sportive Monastir 89-84 in an overtime thriller.
Kate started. That's a wonderful score there from Crawford. Look at that. He's up to 21 points with that sensational score.
U.S. Monastir back with the rhythm.
It's been pinched. It's been stolen. There's a chance. Noel goes up and it goes in. A good 2 points. He makes it safe. That is a big score. 7 seconds in overtime. fist. Well, this is just, look at that.
And the excitement continued on Saturday as Nigeria's Rivers Hoopers beat the home team Senegal's Asduane 77-68.
A couple of long-range shots. Overtime, maybe again. Oh, put it in. That is Eke at the helm. 24 points, 26 now. Haruda around the outside, goes up. Oh, that's a good score, isn't it, from the very Perry trying to find that pass. Wilkins drops it in. Great score for Wilkins. And Wilkins gets himself up to 12 points. That's the end of it.
Sunday began with another win by the Rivers Hoopers, this time finishing on top against Armée Patriotique Rwandais 86-82.
And he's up to 13.
That is a sumptuous basket there from him. Timely.
Oh, Perry goes high, has to go high. That is a great score, and he knows.
Averaging 37 points for 37 minutes for the starters. They're tired, but they keep going.
Hunt gets it in. That's a great score for Hunt, up to 14. Here's their last chance saloon. The long-range shot comes off the rim from Finer, and it is, of course, the Rivers Hoopers who win their second straight game.
Asduanes didn't allow another loss on their home court, winning the second game of the day, beating U.S. Monastir 76-59, handing Tunisia their second loss of the round.
And with Layani off of the court, Jokura just filling in nicely.
Just stop it! Stop it! Stop it! U.S. Monastir on 5. Lofted over the top into the hands of the ever-dangerous Mike Fofana. Oh! They get possession again. Kwasi will finish it off. No! Baldon comes it off for Asduane. And that's it. That's a wrap, surely. Incredible scenes here at Dakar.
The Sahara Conference is off to quite an eventful start with Nigeria's Rivers Hoopers at the top of the board. We'll bring you the highlights as more games continue Tuesday. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thank you for watching.